Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our session this morning. My name is Gal. I'm the CEO of a company called Zoomin, and we have here Lawrence Orin, who is the head. Lawrence, say hi. Who is the head of technical communication for a company called Eternity, and he's going to describe his company in a few minutes. Speaking with an Englishman, it reminds me of a joke that I recently heard, and I want to start with this. It's also relevant to where we are today. And he talks about an Englishman, a Scottish, and an Irish that go into a bar and drink beer. So they each have a fly jumping right into their beer. So the Englishman said, "No, I'm not going to drink it," and he orders another beer. The Scottish takes out the fly, puts it aside, and drinks the beer. And the Irish takes the fly out and said, "Spit it out, spit it out." So that's about being in Ireland and speaking to an Englishman. We'll start by talking about the old world. In the old world, companies used to compete against each other based on things like features, functionality, and prices. Today, the situation is very different. If you look at most companies today in your industry and in general, the difference is very vague. And while a lot of the companies today, they buy more companies and buy more technology and add it to their portfolio, they develop more. A lot of the companies develop technology in the same locations. So as a result of it, if you look at the offering of companies in general and companies in your industries, there's a lot of similarity between the offerings, a lot of similar features, a lot of similar functionality, and most commonly also similar tagline. And so as a result, surveys today show that we have one very clear conclusion from this, that companies today do not compete on prices or do not compete on features. They compete on two main things. One of them is the customer experience, and two is the customer heart. 93% of corporate executives put customer experience as higher priority than improving their own product or training. And in 2016, more than 89% of the companies realized that and assumed they're going to compete mostly on customer experience. And this result in that more than 50% of the budgets allocated to developing and enhancing their product are reshuffled to improving customer experience. So with this, let's look at what does all this mean to your customers and to our world. So this is a typical customer journey. Probably can be relevant to any one of your customer. It starts with the pre-sales phase, where customers start discovering about your product or service or company. Then they would go about searching, researching, comparing before they decide to buy. After they buy, they go to the middle circle, where they start using your system, getting help from your call center or self-service. Then they start sharing it with other people, personalizing your product before they repurchase and get to the inner circle, which is a long-term loyal customer. That's where they become your friends. They start evangelizing about your company, and that's where we want them to be. So that's an interesting journey by itself. But what's more interesting is the mapping of the different steps in the process where product content plays an essential role. As you can see, product content plays a huge role in many of the steps. And usually it's being thought of as mostly being used for the post-sale phases, but product content is very, very essential also to the pre-sale phases, or in other words, in bringing more business to your company, more revenues and generating more business. So product content plays an essential role in improving customer journey and improving customer experience. So let's ask ourselves where and how this content should be available. And the answer is very simple. Product content should be available anywhere where your customers are looking for it. Your customers are everywhere, and this content should be everywhere. So they're calling your call center for support issues. They're going to your website to read about your product, whether it's in pre-sales or post-sale phases. They're going to your customer community for Q&A. They're using your devices. They're everywhere. And our goal is to basically bring the content and make it available anywhere they are, and most importantly, do it on their terms. I mean, in today's world, we're not in a position to tell our customers what to do, how to consume our content. We have to do it on their terms. And the numbers show that bringing this content to all those various touch points is very, very important. 90% of your customers say that expect that customer experience should be consistent across all touch points or across all channels. Almost 50% of customers say that they would switch to a competitor if that competitor supports their channel of choice or that touch point of choice. And 80% of the customers say that authenticity of content is a crucial factor in building brand trust. So the bottom line to all those numbers is the following. Your customers are engaging with you on average of 7 different touch points in 7 different ways. And the more touch points you support, the more chances you have to win your customer's heart and to win the customer. So companies realize that, and they invest tons of money, and companies like yours realize that, and they invest tons of money and efforts in producing great product content. But in most cases, it's underutilized. And the diagram that you see here shows the utilization of product content across those various customer touch points. As you can see, in most cases, it's underutilized. The only case where it's reasonably utilized is the doc portal, but even then, it's usually in the form of static content, which doesn't really go along with improving or great customer experience. So with this underutilization diagram, we ask ourselves why? Why is this happening? And we found 3 main reasons for this. One is awareness. In most companies, functions which are external to technical communication or documentation are not always aware of the benefits and the potential of reusing content, of the value of bringing your product content to your Salesforce CRM, of the value of bringing your product content to your customer community, to your IoT devices if it's relevant. Not always aware of it. The other thing is ownership. As I'm sure you know better than me, in most companies, each one of those touch points that you see here has a different stakeholder with different output needs and different KPIs. And the lack of unified content strategy usually results in underutilization of product content. And the last thing is feasibility. The existence of a technology or a platform that really allows to consistently publish content to all those different touch points in an automatic way, preferably. So what companies usually do, they would usually start by getting a one-off, a specific technology for doc portal or for knowledge base but that you solve one problem, but you create a bigger problem by deepening your silos, because in most cases, those one-off applications are not integrated and not talking to one another. So you're creating more one-offs. And the other option is to create the homegrown applications, which is tailored to your needs. But then in the short term, it's usually good, although it's not the business of most companies to develop software, but their own software for content. But it can be good in the short term, but in the long term, it's usually much more expensive and not scalable. So in the process of developing an outstanding and disruptive cross-touchpoint customer journey, Eternity, Lawrence's company, decided to implement a delivery platform. And the first step in implementing this delivery platform is enhancing their documentation portal, or what they call their help portal. With this, I want to turn into Lawrence, who will tell the Eternity story.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Lawrence Orin. I am the documentation manager for a company called Aternity. And what I vowed to do was to make as few slides as possible and to actually show you what we do and what we did. Eternity, this is our website, eternity.com. Basically, what we do is that we create a system that manages the performance of many computers in your organization. Okay, it's a standard enterprise level product. And I joined Eternity about 1.5 years ago. And when I joined about 1.5 years ago, they had just released version 8 of the product, which looked like this. Uses a lot of dashboards and everything else. This is what I came into. This is their standard homepage from the old version. This is version 8, okay? And they had an online help system. Their online help system was using WordPress, actually. And I always knew WordPress to be a blogging tool. I never knew it to be an online help tool. But what they had done was take this tool and use its very robust flexibility to add many, many, many plugins to allow it to be used as a help authoring tool. I thought, okay, that's cool. But everybody was in pain when it came to documentation. They didn't like it. They didn't know why they didn't like it. Customers didn't like it. Nobody liked it. The people inside the company didn't like it, but they didn't know why. And so I was hired to fix it. So this is what so I wanted to start by just showing you what the help was. And then I can show you what the thought processes of how we decided to make a change, and then what the change was that we made and what it was like to make that change, okay? So this is the help, okay? On every screen you have this top bar, and you have this help icon. You click the help icon, and it opens the WordPress page, which you can expand if you want. And as you can see, it's context-sensitive help. So before we had the My Dashboard, My Enterprise dashboard, and the online help comes up with the context-sensitive help of the dashboard. So they had context-sensitive help. They did it by having an ID, a simple single ID for each page, and that page would call WordPress, and they had a plugin for WordPress that would take this ID, find the topic, and plug it in, okay, which you see over here, which kind of worked a lot of the time. But because the product was quite dynamic, sometimes it didn't work. So actually, when I arrived at Aternity, testing documentation was the same as testing the context-sensitive links. Nobody had any time to test the content. Everybody was just testing to make sure that the right page came up. Because all the way back to RoboHelp and all the way through to today, one of the biggest problems with context-sensitive help is making sure that those two IDs match. Because if they don't match, you get page not found, and it's very ugly, right? So this was the help that I saw. For every page, you had a help page. But one of the key problems with what's known as the AKR, it was the Aternity Knowledge Repository, AKR. And this help system, being in WordPress, one of its things was that you had to log in order to make this accessible, or you needed to have a system already installed on in your enterprise in order to access this help, which was fine. Okay, it's against the grain today, but that's what it was then. One of the key problems was the way that the information was structured. The information was structured by features, okay? It wasn't structured by tasks. So long as you knew the name of a feature, you were okay. So if you were to search for, say, license provisioning, this isn't. This is just Firefox working. This isn't the context-sensitive help working. So if you go for license provisioning, oh, look, there it is, because it's a feature. And in a feature of a product, if you know the name of the feature, you can search for it and find it, which is okay, but most people who go to the documentation don't know the names of the features. That's why they're going to the documentation. So they're not thinking in terms of your language, they're thinking in terms of their language. So if you type in something like, I want to check the CPU usage. I tried this before. Okay, it's a classic example. I want to find out if the CPU usage in the different machines in my company is going up or down, if it's spiking or not. And I hit enter, and I go into the AKR search. And because I'm not thinking in terms of tasks, I'm only thinking in terms of features, okay? There is no feature called CPU usage. So what the search results give is a set of results which isn't useful at all. It's the administrator guide, it's the user guide, it's a report about CPU usages that one of the things that will just list their CPU usage, won't say anything, right? It's not useful information. So it was very clear from the outset that this problem of the way that the knowledge was structured was fundamentally wrong. We had to move the vocabulary away from internal and move it into the domain of the customer. You have to think like the customer. You have to try to imagine what customers might be typing into the search engine. The other problem is that if you go into these huge articles, one of the things about an authoring tool very often is that if it encourages a certain type of writing, then authors will go where they are being encouraged to go. And one of the things about WordPress and many of the other types of systems just like this is that they encourage these headings and subheadings and sub-subheadings. So you can end up with enormous articles where you would go in and then you would have to search through those articles again to try to find what it is you're looking for, only to find that it's not quite what it was. You come out again into the search results, you try in again, and it's almost like potluck. Now, we've all had this before. These used to be PDFs, right? And you used to try to search for something. You'd have to go into a PDF. Is it an admin thing? Is it an installation thing? Is it a deployment thing? Is it a configuration thing? You don't know where to search. It's a problem, right? So long as you have these publications and you have to search within those publications and everybody is in their internal vocabulary, you can't really serve your customers. You're not making your content accessible. So you may have written great content, but nobody can find it. So they tried many things. Bless their cotton socks. They tried many things. They tried, for example, to introduce a tabbed interface so that you see certain tabs and then move on to other tabs. That's one thing that they tried. They tried tagging also, to tag the content in addition to searching so that hopefully people would find the content. But those things just made the content even harder to find because when you're in one tab, you can't see what's in the other tab. So that's how I walked into Aternity with the AKR and version 8, which had just been released. So now let's go back to very few slides, I promise. All right. So I was tasked with building a new online help, and I knew that there were some things that I needed to do. And the first thing that I needed to do was we needed a new paradigm. And that paradigm had to be search. We had to start and end with the search experience, because the search experience to me, from a content point of view, from somebody who writes, was incredible. The idea that Google could take all these websites, okay, and it doesn't matter how they're structured, doesn't matter what kind of internal language they have and table of contents and navigation menus, and nobody cared. You come into Google and you land on a page because it has that word in it. I thought that was really the place to start. So it has to be a single search box, not many different search boxes, one for administrators and one for users, no more guides. We had to start with a search. That was really important. The other things that I knew that we needed to do was that it had to be very practical content. We had to start and end with the way that customers think, not the way the company thinks. What are they looking for? So it had to be very practical. It had to be really easy to find. And The other thing that struck me when you're in Google is that you type something and you land. It's like you're coming from another planet and you've just landed into the middle of this website. You know, it's like, and here's our reporter on the scene, and he's kind of looking around, he has no idea what he's talking about. But you have to, from that point, know everything that you wanted to know in order to get your job done. So everybody is very busy, and they've got managers who need them to do whatever it is that they need to do today, now. They don't have time for long overviews and long training sessions. They need the information that they need to get the job that they need to get done now. So you land from anywhere, and the information has to be there, right there. We also wanted a consistent layout because we know that people who understand the graphical nature of a system, and it's the same language, and it's the same layouts, and it makes it easier to understand. There's less surprises, and everything is much easier. It had to have our look. Very, very important to our branding team and all the rest of it. And it had to be available on all devices. Okay? So that was the thinking of where we were heading. And the choice that we made in order to fulfill all of those, as you'll see in a minute, was using Gal's company, Zoomin. Now, actually, I chose Zoomin again because when I was working in Radvision and later in Avaya, we chose them too at that time for the reasons that that company needed. And I knew already that these people would be able to provide these things that I needed. So we also went with DITA. We decided to go with DITA mostly because it really enforces consistency. We needed a lot of reuse. We're a small company, not a startup, but we don't have a large team. So we will be reusing content a great deal. And DITA is really powerful in that, of course. And some of our customers are government customers, so they don't have access to the internet. So we needed to have different formats that we would produce, sometimes on-premise, sometimes in a web portal. But the main reason that we chose them is because of their ability to break down those barriers or silos, as you were calling them. Because to me, the idea of searching, that going into a PDF and searching within that PDF, that was finished, it's dead. You have to be able to search everything, because that's what customers expect, to be able to search everything. So we needed to be able to find one search box that would access all the content. We also needed a blank canvas because we have a fanatical marketing department that really requires everything to be exactly the way that they want. And we chose them because we've had experience with them before. We know that they have had experience. And the most important thing for me, personally, is that I had a lot of ideas about how I was going to take this forward. A lot of very cool innovations that I want to share with you today. I want to demo with you. And I knew that I could do that together with them, that it would be this kind of partnership where I would pull them and they would pull me, and we would really do this together. And because their background is in technical writing, they get it. They really understand what it is that I'm talking about. So, what does it look like? So this is the site that we have developed. It's very similar in its look and feel to the website, and I'm very proud of it. One of the things that for me was incredibly important is that somebody should be able to get to the information that they need incredibly quickly, really, really quickly, instantly. And just this week, we launched an update to this site. I'm very, very, very happy about it. And what it allows you to do, of course, there is this search box that is out there and just encourages you to type in whatever you want. It doesn't really matter where you're looking for it. And we want to be able to get this information very quickly. So if I want to monitor an application, what Zoomin does is that it goes through all of the topics that are in the system to find the ones with a title that you have typed and presents them to you right there as a drop-down. And this, to me, I don't know about you, but to me this is great, because then all I have to do is use the down arrow, pick something, hit OK, and there it comes up. And to me, that's brilliant, because I didn't even hit a search results page. I just went straight to the topic that I wanted to do. That, to me, is fantastic. And I think that is the essence of the fruit of our labor. If we are writing content and sweating away, making our content absolutely perfect and beautiful, and as the gentleman before said, it never, ever, ever ends. You know, we keep on perfecting it and editing it, etc. Then I want this content to be read and to be accessed by as many people as possible. I don't want it hidden behind logins. I don't want people to have to hunt and to search and to go back again and to get that real frustration. I want people to access the information that they need immediately. So having these drop-down suggestions, that for me is incredible. I think that's very cool. So that's the first thing I wanted to demonstrate. The second thing that I wanted to show is that the title of the topic is always a customer task. We try to make it as much as possible a customer task, not an internal feature, but a real practical task that somebody might want to look up, okay? And then the next thing that I wanted to show is that the first paragraph, which is the short description, that first paragraph, which is sometimes just one sentence or two sentences, that's got to say everything in that tiny little thing. So it has to have the 5 W's, right? Who, what, why, when, and where, right? And then the how is down below. But this comes from journalism. Whenever you see a headline on the BBC or CNN or wherever, then you look at the headline and then the first paragraph, and that always has the 5 W's. That's the skill of writing articles. And because we need to have people know if they have landed in the right place or not, they need to have those 5 W's right there at the very, very top. So one of the other things that we spoke about is that people don't have any time for overviews, okay? So how do you solve this problem? How do you get all the information that you might need in one page where you landed from another planet, zoom, you just landed straight down on this page, and this is what you need to do. How do you get all that information to a person without an overview? Okay? There are terms that they need to understand. They need to know that they need to get inside your head. How do you do that without an overview? That's what overviews and introductions do, right? So what we decided to do, and Zoomin helped us with that, was that we decided to really take glossaries to another level. And so what we have is we use terms throughout our system like everyone does. We have a glossary, like lots of people do. But instead of putting all of those definitions and concepts and ideas in overviews or appendices where people might want to refer to it in the old reference style, now we have them as pop-outs. And you can see every time we have a term that links to a glossary item, it has a dotted underline. And when I click on it, you get a pop-out with that definition. And that's really important because it allows people who know what you're talking about to get on with it, and who don't know what you're talking about to click in, see it briefly, and then pop out again and carry on. Now, we didn't just make those glossary pop-outs. We also made them rich text, and rich text even with diagrams as well. And this was also very important to us. Something that we really wanted to do was that the pop-outs would. Oops, sorry. Take another one. I don't mind. We wanted to be able to have the whole thing there, everything that you need to understand that concept. If it's richer text, if it's links to other glossary items, and you can just pop from one to another, and it'll give you the information that you need. And of course, you can open the glossary separately as well. So you're landing in a page, you have all the information that you need. You have your 5 Ws at the top, you have a practical task at the very top, you have examples that accompany everything, so it's very important, and you're right there, okay? Now, if it's not the right topic, okay, which sometimes happens, you want to minimize the number of click-throughs, you want to minimize the amount of frustration, because the key issue is getting people to the right information quickly. That's why you build a portal. That's the whole essence of everything. So we had these related links, and we decided not to put them on the bottom, but to put them right up on the top at the side. So if you read your 5 Ws and you find that you're not in the right place, okay, take a look at my family. These are my brothers and sisters and my parents. This is where I am on the data map tree. And I can click through to any one of those people whenever if that's not what I was looking for. We have metadata tags up here as well. And we also have the breadcrumbs that take you back up the tree as well, if you need. Okay? So we try to think of everything, okay? Figures pop out to show their full 100% zoom if you need. Tables look identical throughout the system because it's DITA, so I never touch a font. I never, ever touch a font or a color. Everything is pure content. The pop-outs are here everywhere that you go. If you don't understand something, you click. If you do understand something, you carry on. It's really, really easy because we want everything to be in one place because that's where you landed and that's what you deserve. The steps have the same format all the way through because it's DITA again, so you have the consistency. The step numbers all look the same. And it just works. It's really superb. It does the job very nicely. Now, for those people who do like table of contents, we have those too. You still have a table of contents if you need. And then you can navigate your way through and find what you want and click on it. And that's also okay. And that's allowed, and it's fine, and it's perfectly reasonable. So you still have table of contents for people who like table of contents. But the paradigm had to be search from the beginning to the end. We wanted to have it all about search. Okay? So what other innovations besides glossary pop-outs and the absolute blank canvas that they gave us? PDFs are still here. You can still save as a PDF if you want to take it offline. You can also, something that they had out of the box, which was very cool, is that they have something called My Docs, where you can take a bunch of topics and build your own PDF out of it from various different publications. So I like that very much as well. That's here. So you can create your custom PDF if you want. But our customers, at least were in our world, even though our customers are old world, they're all very large institutions. large banks and things like this, they are very, very, very much all about online. They're not really about PDFs, although people do like it sometimes for contractual issues and things. You can send feedback, okay? So you give a rating here. It opens a feedback form, and you can type whatever you want and then send your feedback. And that sends an email silently directly to me at the moment. But if it gets too much, then I'll find somebody else to look at those. And that's the essential core of it, but there's much more, okay? So we saw the context-sensitive help before, okay? Remember those single IDs that must absolutely match in order for context-sensitive help to work? Well, we didn't really like that idea very much because it was too brittle. It's like building everything on stilts and balancing them one on top of the other, and the slightest misalignment and everything falls apart. It's really awful. So we wanted to have some kind of smart search fallback mechanism kind of thing. And what we created was something very nice. Let me show you. Okay, this is the new version, version 9 of Aternity. And it has a new look, et cetera, et cetera. And when I came in, of course, they changed the whole system to work with use cases, and they were all thinking, you know, how is the user using this system? So it dovetailed very nicely into what I wanted to do, which was to change everything from features to tasks to actually work. So it was a nice thing. So this is another one of their dashboards. It's a very nice dashboard. It's okay. And if I do a help, then you get to the online help. Now, the way that this looks is that it looks like from the URL that it's come straight to this HTML, but that didn't actually happen. What actually happened was this. We sent, if you'll bear with me for a second, we sent this to the system. And what that is a series of parameters, actually 3 different parameters, and a product name, and a version name, and we sent it all to the system, all of these parameters. And we did all of that, and then it goes, it looks and tries to find a match on all these parameters, and if it finds it, it presents the page, okay? Now, the reason why we did multiple parameters is that we wanted it to be less like these very narrow, brittle stilts, and much more like a solid house. So that if one of those parameters doesn't match, it's okay, we can breathe, it's fine, we'll still find the page. And that was very, very, very important. So in the system, we have the fact that it's software as a service, it's a cloud thing, so that's the product type, it's a cloud thing. We have the version number, and then we have a part of the system, which is the monitoring part of the system rather than troubleshooting or analyzing, whatever. We have the actual dashboard, the SLA dashboard, and we have the fact that it's a dashboard, okay? Those are all of the parameters. Now, in the past, what may have happened was that R&D would come out with a new version. They would update the version to 9.1, but there's no documentation out yet, right? And so this would be 9.1. Now, all of these come from the product, right? Okay? Now, if this happens, 9.1, what happens to our link between the product and the help? Does it still match? And because we have multiple, and I hope this is going to work. I'm going to copy and paste this with the 9.1 inside, okay? And because we have multiple parameters, it's going to show 9.1's version. Now, 9.1's documentation isn't out yet, okay? But here's what it'll do. It goes back to the 9.0 and it says alternate CSH topic found. You see that before it disappears? It's gone now. That was a tiny little message for me saying that the context-sensitive help was nearly there, but we found an alternative one that's pretty much there. And we code the rules. There are this little file of rules that determine what the fallback mechanism is. So we have a really robust context-sensitive help. This is something I haven't seen anywhere else. I mean, maybe there are other places that do this, but for me, this was really important and I really liked it. And what it allows me to do is to get QA away from testing the links. Thank you very much. The links work now. You can focus on reading the documentation, making sure that it's correct, that it's real. So this is very important for us. So I really like this as another example of doing something a little bit different and, you know, thinking of features, not just for the feature's sake, but that it really makes sense and that it really helps people get to the information that they need quickly, which is really my laser focus. I just want to get people to read the content. Otherwise, what's the point of making amazing content if nobody's going to read it, or if you make it so hard for them to access it? Okay. So I have one more thing that I want to show you, which I think is pretty cool. And what I need to do, okay, I'll show it to you on here. One of the things that I hated about documentation is gathering reviews from many different SMEs. It's hell, okay? Because you have to export it to PDF, you send it to people, they write their comments in the PDF, they send it back to you, you collate it all together, and sometimes they contradict each other, and it's awful, right? So there are some vendors who have come out with custom solutions, Adobe being one of them, right? They have this nice server where you can post comments on the server, and if you pay them nicely, then they'll set this all up for you, and then everybody can see their comments and they log in and stuff. It's still not easy, but you can do it, and that's one way of doing it. But it seemed to me backwards, because if all of this is online, and if all of this is available to everybody, and if all of this can be seen by everyone, then why can't everyone comment on it, right? So what you saw before was a customer being able to comment on a topic down at the very, very bottom. You click the stars and then you type in the feedback, right? So when you log in to the system, they have a nice little feature where pretty much on every paragraph and every figure, you can, oops, let me just log in, sorry. If I log in quickly. And now, if I click on this, then I can enter, just as an SME, because we don't want customers to be pointing out for every figure or every step what this or that is, but I really do need that for that kind of level of granularity with SMEs. Otherwise, they find themselves copying and pasting half the topic. So on this figure, exactly this figure, I can type in this figure is monumental. And as an SME, I can add this comment, and there it is. And I can do this throughout with other steps and things like this. Now, if this topic is in production, nobody else sees it because you have to log in to be able to see all of this. So it's kind of this hidden layer that goes on behind the scenes where anybody with a login, that's the people that I trust to give, you know, these SMEs who really know what they're talking about and give absolute tiny details, they will be able to tell me what what I need to know about the system. It also sends an email, and it stores it in a JSON file for me later on if I want to gather them all together. And I can remove them afterwards. There's this little thingy here to remove it. But the idea of being able, out of the box, to collaboratively send out for reviews. There's no more licenses, no more servers. I just say, guys, please take a look at this and send me your feedback. Bye. They know to log in, to add their comments, push submit. I get the notifications, and they can see each other's notifications as well, which is really good. So I'm not stuck in the middle of two people contradicting each other. I can have them bash it out themselves. And then I implement the feedback. It's so simple. So this is the system that we built. The focus has always been, it's been almost obsessively been about getting people access to this content as quickly as possible. Drop down suggestions. The search results, I haven't even shown you the search results because we skipped it before. But if I type CPU usage, where should I go? If I type CPU usage, then what I can see here is a set of tasks that people can say, wait, do I want to analyze the usage of activities? Do I want to analyze the discovered application performance? Do I want to view the data monitored by? And I can see that some of these have CPU and usage kind of, some of them are together. CPU and usage are together. Some of them are apart. So let's do CPU usage when they're only together. And that reduces the number of topics. You see now they're just 8 in here to view. And then I can view this. Let's say I want to, I don't know, add a Windows desktop application to be monitored. Then I know that the word CPU usage is in here. It's associated with this task. This is what I was trying to do. Now I can move along. If you don't have titles that are meaningful, then people don't know what to click, and they're back in and out and in and out, and it's really frustrating. So the idea is being able to give people the information that they need to get to the content that they need as quickly as possible with the least amount of fuss. So I guess I should leave a little bit of time for questions if anybody has any. Yes? Correct. Yeah. No, we use it. We use it a lot. What I've done is I've skipped over a lot of these things because, okay, so the story goes like this. Facets are incredibly important. We use them all the time. But what I actually did was another innovation that I didn't even mention, which is the inbox filtering, which I stole from the Amazon website. When I went onto Amazon and I did a search, I noticed that they had a left drop-down. And I looked and I saw, oh, they've got departments and stuff you can already search. Before you've even started typing, you can start filtering. I thought that was brilliant, because typically what you would do is you would type and then you would filter afterwards. I thought, wouldn't it be great, right? So that's what this does. This already primes your filtering with your faceted searches, yes. So yes and yes, definitely you need to have metadata that says what everything is. But in terms of content tagging, what I've tried to do is avoid that. I don't know if that's bad or good, but it seems to me to be kind of a hack. If I am going to want somebody to find this article because they've typed in a certain word, that word should be in there, thank you very much. And it should be in the top paragraph, or it should be in the title, because otherwise I haven't written it properly. It's a bit militant, but that's my approach in terms of faceted searches. Yes?
I like your approach very much, and I can see how it could be applied in a lot of situations. You have a particular persona in users, and one of the places where this breaks down is for those of us who have clients whose products are more mass public, because then you get problems with low literacy users who see a link and click it, and they're distracted by in-content links.
Right.
And so, I mean, I can see that for most like higher technology products where we're talking to people who are college educated and above, this would probably work. But I can see where it would absolutely fall apart if you had something that was for a broader market.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't know your business, so I can't say. But I'll tell you what I've done, okay? We have many different types of users. We have the user himself or herself who doesn't know anything about how to set this up or anything about anything, really. They just go in and they need to figure out if something is bad or not. We have the administrators, we have the deployers and things like this. So what we do is that we tag everything for a role. As you can see here, we have a role of a user, install, admin, etc. Now, I chose to make the filtering of the search by product. I could have chosen to have two, or to do it by user type, or to have, even better, when you go in, it's already chosen what your user type is because you arrived from somewhere else that indicates that you are this type of user. And then you're already filtering out of the box, like as you walk in, you already know what type of user this person is, and therefore you can filter things according to that person. Because you and I both know as writers, the first thing that we need to do before we put pen to paper or finger to keyboard is that we need to think who we're writing for, right? So we always think of our audience and then we pitch our flaw at that audience level. So, do we talk about mouse pointers or do we talk about TCP IP addresses or do we talk, how much do we have to explain for each type of persona? So you map those personas. Having different personas doesn't stop you from writing for those personas. It just means you have to be very clear who you're writing for.
No, I'm sorry, I'm gonna
Sorry, maybe I misunderstood.
Domain or expertise knowledge. I'm talking about low literacy users, which is a completely different situation. So the deliverable, the very way that you're presenting this stuff within content links will not work for content which is designed for a mass market in a place such as the United States, where the average reading level is 8th grade, which is the very definition of a low literacy user. So let me give you a practical example. I work a lot with companies who produce medical devices. So part of their content is geared for the patient who's going to be reading content on the website or whatever in advance of having a procedure done or whatever. Okay. So we cannot guarantee that the patient, in fact, we can guarantee that there's a high probability the patient is a low literacy reader. If a low literacy reader, it has nothing to do with what they know as far as the content of the medical stuff. If they see a page like that with all of those links that are going to be pop-up, they'll just randomly
Okay.
start.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
That's what I'm saying. I like the approach very much, but this is a case where you can't always filter content based on personas if one of those personas is saying this deliverable doesn't work. So.
Yes and no. I hear what you're saying, and it's 100% true. But what I like about the idea of a blank canvas is that it's blank. And so I can put however many links I want, and I can structure the content and structure the way it's delivered for those people. I'm sure you do that already. And when you do that, and you can structure the way that it looks, and you can structure the way that it's presented, and how complex and how intricate you want those things to be, then you can deliver content for them. Of course, this isn't that site. It's not meant for those people, and that's all right too. But I don't think it invalidates anything about the way in which you would pitch things for your readers. You would have them in mind when you decide on what kind of title. And the first paragraph, are they going to read on? You need to decide really carefully what those first two sentences are for them. I don't think any of the fundamental concepts change based on your level of literacy. I think it only changes the way that it looks, the window, but I don't think it changes the way the considerations that you must have. No more questions? Sure. Anybody else? Yes. Hi.
This looks really great in a browser. I'm just wondering about, you mentioned earlier in the presentation about delivery on mobile devices. What we struggle with sometimes with our product is fitting all of this great content into a very small space.
Okay.
And things like when you have your pop-ups and
Oh, lovely. Okay, so take a look at this. Have a look. Feast your eyes, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. I can take this page, okay? Now, watch this. And then everybody goes, ooh. This is what it looks like on a smartphone. Okay, about here. Now, yeah, okay, we need to fix that. But look at this. No, you're right. But look, you see how it nicely slims down, and the figure is still there, although it's really tiny. It's true. This thing wouldn't be there normally. Sorry. Let's just remove that.
what about your glossary links? How do they look when you click on your glossary links?
You want to feast your eyes more? Okay, here, watch. Okay. Oh. No, because that's awful at the moment. You can scroll across. It works. It doesn't break, but it doesn't shrink in a nice way. But yes, here, let me show you one because you asked so nicely. Although it doesn't shrink. Here, I think this one maybe? No. No. Here. This here. So it does on a browser. It does work. You can do this, and it scrolls across, but it's not so great. But it's all right. And one of the things that I have to do, I have to test on a phone as well. The funny thing is that I'm far more fastidious than the rest of the company because their product doesn't work on a mobile device yet, but my help does. So yeah, they did that.
Do you have any video content?
Yes, yes. With a responsive design, I'm not sure. I haven't tested that. I've only got 2 videos on there. I haven't. No. Yeah, I just linked to it, and it looks like a figure with a thing in it, but it's a box, and then you push play. But I haven't checked it on a responsive design. It's something to check. Okay. But I have to say, I don't want to sound like a spokesperson for them because I'm not, and I've given them hell, right? Because I have very exacting requirements. But the really important thing for me, And it's one of the reasons that I actually went with them, because there are some companies that are just so big, this is what you got, you take it or leave it, have a nice life, and you'll join the queue if you have something that you want to change. And it's not like that with them. They have a really good understanding of technical writing on the one hand, and of enterprise applications on the other. And they understand that this is my lounge, this is my front room. I really care that it looks nice to my guests. It's really important to me. So so if there was a problem, I would tell them, and it would be fixed. I haven't checked videos on smartphone. Anybody else? Yes. Correct. So they don't use Zoomin. They don't. What I do is I use the DITA content to export a web help, and I send it to them. And sadly, web help is web help. And so when you export a publication, you're back in PDF land, online PDF land. I mean, like, it's not PDF, it's web help, but it's still, you search within your publication. And there's no context-sensitive help either in those cases, at least for now. I haven't focused on it too much because most of our customers, nearly all of them, are connected to the internet. Yeah, but for government customers, we export to web help, and they're okay with that. They understand that it's their limitation. And oh yeah, it's all the same content, it's all the same structure. The glossary links don't pop out, they go to a glossary and then you can go back again. It's identical structure. It just looks like a web help. I can show it to you if you want. I mean, it's not great, it's just web help. Okay. So, but it's the same structure. The idea of information structuring has little to do with these guys. These guys helped migrate content structuring meet the customer, because there is nothing worse than tidying a most beautiful garden and having all your flower beds with perfect, daffodils and color coordination, and nobody sees it because you've got this huge wall. What's the point? What's the point? You make it so hard for people to appreciate your flower bed, nobody gets to see it. And then you wonder why you're so irrelevant in the organization. It's not fair. You should be at the very heart of the organization. You should be encouraging sales. You should be showing off your product. It should be sparkling clean, and it should be out there for everybody to see. It should not be behind a login. It should be available from Google, which, by the way, all of this is as well. That's what it should be, yeah. Anybody else? Oh, yes?
Which search engine do you use on the portal? Zoomin or?
Yes? That's what we do right now. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.